At my daughter's wedding, her fiancé shattered my face in cake. What happened next will haunt you. It was supposed to be the happiest day of my daughter's life. The sun was shining, guests mingled, and laughter echoed throughout the garden. Everyone was buzzing with excitement. But then, in an instant, everything changed. As I stood there, smiling through my tears, her fiancé came up behind me with a glimmer of mischief in his eyes and a towering cake in his hands. I saw it in slow motion, the way his arm swung back, the moment I felt the chill of impending doom. And then it happened. The cake exploded across my face, sweet icing splattered my cheeks, and underneath it, a shocking pain radiated through my jaw. The crowd gasped, a collective intake of shocked breaths that cut like a knife through the joyous air. Some laughed, while others exchanged bewildered glances. It was all too surreal, the vibrant colors of flowers and the delicate notes of music twisting into chaos. My daughter's joyous day had taken a left turn into nightmare territory. I stumbled, my mind racing faster than my heart, which thumped painfully in my chest. I could feel the creamy residue dripping down my neck, combined with something far grosser, my blood. As I wiped away the cake, I didn't just clear my vision, I was horrified as I caught a glimpse of my reflection in a nearby window. My face was a grotesque canvas of crumbs and red. "What have you done?" I gasped, struggling to steady myself. I couldn't breathe, my throat felt tight. I looked into the shocked eyes of my daughter, her smile erased. Underneath those innocent wedding bells, a storm was brewing. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw her fiancé back away, eyes wide as if he had turned into a specter. Perhaps it was just the shock settling in, but I sensed something more, an unspoken tension that sent shivers up my spine. Whispered conversations filled the air, every sound felt amplified. Was this an accident? Did he really mean to? What kind of a person throws a cake? The murmurs crept under my skin like ice. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Then it hit me, the lurking shadows in his eyes. This was no mere mishap, my instincts screamed that something darker shadowed his twisted amusement. No one throws cake in someone else's face without reason. The moment stretched, an awkward silence blanketing the crowd. My daughter's trembling hand reached for me, drawing my attention back. "Mom, are you okay?" Her wide eyes were filled with worry, a mix of compassion and fear that wrapped around me like a heavy blanket. As I turned to speak, a sudden silence fell over us again. It was then that I realized, what if this was just the beginning? This wasn't just a ruined wedding, it felt like a piece of a puzzle slowly revealing itself. What lay ahead as those smiles turned into hushed conversations? My heart raced again. Was my daughter safe? And what would happen next? The crowd shifted uneasily, whispers now morphing into frantic exchanges. I felt every gaze piercing me like arrows, assessing the chaos before them. A stomach-churning anxiety gripped me, the laughter had evaporated, replaced by an unsettling tension that hung thick in the air. My daughter's voice, shrill and wavering, anchored me even as I struggled to steady myself. "Mom, please. We need to get you cleaned up," she urged, her hands shaking as she reached for me. I could see the panic dancing behind her eyes, and it mirrored the turmoil surging within me. I wanted to tell her I was fine, that a little cake wouldn't ruin my spirit. That I wouldn't allow this moment to tarnish her special day. But the truth was, I was far from fine. I caught a glimpse of her fiancé again, Jack, the man I had once welcomed into our family with open arms. His smile had always seemed infectious, now it twisted into something sinister, lurking in the corner of the garden like a dark cloud preparing to unleash a storm. "What on earth were you thinking?" I wanted to scream. Instead, silence fell upon me as I struggled to find words. "Let us just go," my daughter said urgently, her voice barely above a whisper. I could tell she was fighting back tears, and it made my heart ache. I wanted to protect her, but where was the strength in the face of such a betrayal? I felt lost, like a ship tossed in stormy seas, my compass shattered. As she guided me away from the gathering crowd, the guests began to murmur louder, a symphony of judgment and disbelief wrapped around us. "What will happen to them? Did you see the way he backed away?" My chest tightened. The questions were stacking up faster than I could process them. What had Jack planned? We made it to a small washroom tucked away behind the grand venue. As the cool water splashed against my skin, reality began to seep in. The ache radiating from my jaw pulsed with every heartbeat, a bitter reminder of the cake and what came with it: pain, humiliation, and dread. A storm was brewing, and I was trapped at its center, looking in the mirror. The reflection staring back was foreign. My face was smeared, torn between an innocent moment and the brutality of redemption that I craved. I couldn't shake the feeling that something more sinister was at play, a darkness that Jack had brought into our lives, and it wasn't just confined to a wedding cake. What if he's always been like this? The thought slashed through my mind like glass. Suddenly, the laughter, the shared moments, even the memories of family dinners blurred into scenes of a cruel facade. What else had I missed? What other secrets lay buried beneath his charming smile? "Mom." My daughter's voice broke through my tangled thoughts. I turned to find her standing in the doorway, her expression a mix of desperate hope and dread. "I need you to tell me the truth about Jack," I said urgently, realizing that I needed to know who was truly behind that mask. "What do you really think about him?" Her lips quivered as she wrestled with the weight of the question. I'll tell you. But it might change everything." The words hung heavy in the air. What could she possibly reveal that would turn this day from a cherished memory into something that would haunt us forever? As uncertainty loomed, I couldn't shake the chilling premonition that whatever story she was about to tell would unravel the very fabric of our lives. What had I ignited? What shadows lingered just out of sight? And with that thought nudging at my heart, I sensed that the worst was yet to come. The tension in the small washroom crackled like static electricity. My daughter's wide eyes were wells of emotion, and I found myself holding my breath, waiting. The air felt suffocating, charged with the anticipation of what she might reveal about Jack. "Mom, She hesitated, searching for the right words, and the trembling of her hands reflected the turmoil boiling inside her. "There are things about him I never wanted to believe. Things you should know." The weight of her admission pressed down on my chest. "Just tell me the truth. We can't sweep this under the rug." My voice was hoarse, as if the words had scraped my throat raw. "Jack isn't who he pretends to be," she began, her voice faltering. "A few months ago, I overheard him talking to his friends. They were joking about how easy it was to manipulate people, how they could control situations." A shudder ran through her, and I felt my heart drop. Manipulate? What did they mean? Panic knotted my stomach. He was talking about us, Mom. About making me do things without me even knowing. I thought it was just boys being boys, but her voice trailed off, but I could see the storm brewing in her eyes. This was serious. I urged, my gut tightening. "What else did he say?" She took a shaky breath, gathering her courage. "I don't know all the details, but they laughed about how people follow blindly, how they could create situations that painted them as the good guy while ruining others. The world felt like it was tilting. Jack's sinister behavior was not just an anomaly, it was part of a larger picture I had unknowingly stepped into." The laughter echoed in my mind, the chaos of the party outside now a distant memory. What had I celebrated? A facade. "Mom, it terrifies me," she continued, her expression shifting to fear. "He made a joke about using something like what happened today to distract everyone. To make himself appear innocent." The reality crashed over me like an avalanche. The cake was a mere distraction, part of a greater scheme designed to manipulate, disarm. I fought against the rising tide of anger, but it was futile. Why didn't you tell me before? I was scared it would ruin everything. I thought maybe I was overreacting. Overreacting? My voice cracked, and I could feel the heat of rage and betrayal spreading through me. This is serious, Emily. We have to do something. Her voice softened, desperation slipping through her tone. What if he has already planned something bigger? What if before she could finish, a loud crash echoed through the venue, cutting through our conversation? Startled, we exchanged terrified glances. My heart raced, every instinct screamed danger. Something was horribly off. Let us get out of here, I said, urgency stirring the air. We stepped cautiously out of the restroom, the raucous laughter from outside now ominously muffled, replaced by a thick silence that sent chills down my spine. We moved toward the exit, but as we stepped into the bustling corridor, I froze. Jack stood there, his smile replaced by an expression I had never seen before, calculating, predatory. Guests milled around him as if caught in a spell, but it was his eyes that sent a jolt of fear through me. They were cold, devoid of warmth. In a hurry? He called, his voice dripping with mockery. The party's just getting started. My daughter stepped back, but I couldn't show fear. What do you want? I demanded, my voice steadier than I felt. I think you know. His gaze flicked between us, and something in his demeanor hardened. The truth always has a way of coming out, doesn't it? Just like that messy cake, my blood ran cold. What did he mean? In that moment, I felt the roles reversed. I was no longer a protector. I was the prey in a game I hadn't agreed to play. The laughter outside turned into murmurs, and I could sense the crowd holding its breath, hanging on the precipice of something terrible. What could happen next? I didn't know. But as I looked into Jack's eyes, I saw a place where darkness thrived, and I sensed that we were just beginning to scratch the surface of a horrifying reality. Did I dare face this monster? What was he planning? Jack's smile didn't reach his eyes. They were icy, the kind of chill that could freeze blood. I felt Emily's hand clutch mine tighter, her deep breath a silent plea for safety. What is going on, Jack? I forced the words out, my heart hammering in my chest. If this is a joke, it's not funny. His laugh echoed through the corridor, a harsh, mocking sound. Oh, this isn't a joke, trust me. You think you understand everything, but I'm just getting started. With that, he looked over his shoulder, the smirk tightening into something more sinister. The guests were starting to take notice, faces turning toward us, curiosity mingled with confusion. Stop it! Emily yelled suddenly, the fear spilling into her voice. You don't know what you're messing with. Jack's eyes glinted with delight. Oh, sweetheart, you have no idea what I'm capable of. But you will. Before I could process his threat, a commotion erupted behind him. A group of young partygoers stumbled past in a rush, their laughs still echoing but their faces suddenly blurred with worry. Confusion washed over everyone as a shout broke through the air. Let us get out of here! A frantic voice yelled. Instinctively, I stepped in front of Emily, blocking her from Jack's view. What have you done? I hissed at him, feeling the weight of desperation pressing down my throat. His confidence was disarming. Just a little something to spice up the party. Jack dropped his tone conspiratorially, leaning closer. You're right on the edge of a big revelation, you know. A grand finale that will leave everyone talking. The crowd was shifting now, panic creeping in as more people turned toward the exit, pushing against one another, desperate to escape whatever danger lurked. I felt the pull of the room, the urge to run, but I couldn't leave my daughter behind. Emily, we need to go. I urged, but Jack stepped forward, blocking our path. Why would you want to leave, Mom? He paused for effect, a gleam of menace swirling in his smile. This is where the fun begins. Suddenly, A loud thud rang out. The lights flickered momentarily, then stabilized, casting everything in a disorienting glow. I glanced beyond Jack to see a man near the entrance, struggling with another who looked unsteady, as if fighting off an unseen force. "Get back!" someone screamed. I sensed Jack's energy shifting. "Oh, did you think it would be that easy?" He turned to look at the chaos unfolding. Cake, confusion, there's nothing more delicious than watching the aftermath of a well-placed distraction. A creeping dread settled in my gut like lead. "What do you mean?" I asked, urgency lacing my words. "Didn't you know?" Jack leaned in closer, and I could smell the taint of arrogance on his breath. "I've set the stage for something unforgettable. Just wait and watch while your happy little world begins to break." As he spoke, another loud bang sounded, sending a tremor through the floor. Gasps erupted as people clutched their partners tighter, fear morphing into outright panic. A woman pushed through the crowd, eyes wide and frantic. "They're everywhere. We need to get out." Jack's expression darkened. "You won't ruin my moment." In an instant, he lunged toward the woman. Instinct kicked in. I yanked Emily back, away from both Jack and the mob. Our path to escape dwindled as chaos erupted behind us. I fought to maintain my composure, a protector in the face of crumbling sanity. "Mom, we can't stay here," Emily cried, her voice barely cutting through the din. I nodded, adrenaline surging. We had to find another way out. As I pulled her towards a service door, a sudden crash like thunder boomed through the corridor, shaking the very walls. "What now?" I shouted over the ruckus, heart in my throat. "Get down!" someone yelled from the other side, panic painting their voice. I turned to look back at Jack. But he was gone. Just like that, he had vanished into the throng, leaving behind an atmosphere thick with impending doom. "Mom! We can't just stand here." I grabbed Emily's arm, urgency blending with dread as we pushed through the crowd. Each step felt like wading through molasses, the tension palpable. But then a frantic realization hit me. What if he had planned this all along? The door loomed ahead, but I could already hear the whispers of fragmented conversations behind us, each word a thread closing tighter around my throat. Jack was more than just a boy with charm, he was an architect of chaos, and we were nothing but his unwitting victims. What would he unleash next? Would we even make it out before it was too late? With a surge of determination, I opened the door wide, grasping my daughter's hand firmly. The night waited outside, dark and foreboding, but we had to step out, had to fight back. "On three," I said, steeling my resolve. But as I prepared to charge forward, a low, mocking chuckle echoed from somewhere behind. "Mom," Emily whispered, "we have to hurry before he decides to finish this game." My heart raced. What had Jack set in motion? And could we escape whatever this monster had planned? We burst through the service door, the cool night air slapping our faces, but the darkness outside felt no safer than the chaos we left behind. I took a moment to catch my breath, eyes scanning the shadows, my instincts flaring to life. "Where do we go now?" Emily gasped, her small body trembling beside mine. "Anywhere but here," I whispered, pulling her closer. Each breath felt heavier, that mocking laugh still echoed in my mind, stirring the fear inside me. I felt like prey, hunted by an unseen predator. Jack was out there, and he had every intention of making this night unforgettable for all the wrong reasons. We can't just walk around. We need a plan. I searched the dimly lit street, desperation clawing at my throat. The sound of sirens wailed in the distance, of which I couldn't tell if they were coming toward us or fading away. My mind raced. I drew on every protective instinct I had, but there was an undeniable tremor in my hands. "Over there." I pointed to an alley to our right. The buildings closed in around me, shadows twisting into menacing shapes. "We can hide until things die down." Emily nodded, her face set with determination even as fear flickered in her eyes. We hurried towards the alley, the sounds of panic gradually fading but still palpable, like an electric charge in the air. Once inside the narrow passage, the shadows deepened. I pressed my back against the cool brick wall, trying to catch my breath, my heart hammering wildly. What if he finds us? Emily whispered, her voice trembling. I tightened my grip around her shoulder. He won T. We just need to stay quiet. But I could feel the weight of my words drifting into uncertainty. What if he was serious? I murmured to myself, but Emily interrupted. Mom, that's enough. We can't let him win. Her eyes were fierce, and I saw a flicker of the bravado that filled her when she was playing make-believe. It struck me, a wave of unexpected pride mingled with the unease. Right. You're right, I said, my resolve hardening again. But we need to be careful. If we're going to find a way back to safety, we have to keep our heads down. We hardly took a breath when a scream shattered the night air. It was a raw, desperate sound that froze the blood in my veins. Did you hear that? Emily's eyes widened, her fingers gripping my arm. Yes, and we shouldn't stick around to find out what it was, I urged, my pulse racing as I turned to lead her further down the alley. Every step seemed amplified, each scuff of our shoes echoed loudly in the hollow space. As I navigated the maze of dumpsters and debris, a flicker of movement caught my eye. I halted, instincts on high alert. There, half hidden in the shadows, stood a figure. I squinted into the gloom, trying to discern their identity. Stay behind me, I whispered sharply, positioning myself defensively in front of Emily. But before we could make another move, the figure stepped into the dim light. It was a woman, her face pale and streaked with dirt. You have to help me. She pleaded, breathless, frightened. They're here. Who? I demanded, my guard up. The ones Jack unleashed. That's why the party turned into chaos. We need to go now. Emily clutched my arm tighter, and for a split second, I hesitated. The fear in her eyes mirrored my own. My mind was racing, flipping through our options like a deck of cards. We had to decide quickly. Mom, we can't trust her. Emily hissed. What if she's right? I countered, trying to weigh both sides of the choice. Suddenly, a loud thud resonated from the entrance of the alley, causing our hearts to leap into our throats. Mom! Emily gasped, terror striking her voice like a bolt of lightning. We had to act. Follow me. I shouted, sprinting deeper into the shadows, the strange woman trailing behind us. As panic surged through our veins, one thought screamed above the rest: whatever Jack had unleashed was coming for us, and time was running out. Would we be able to outrun his chaos, or had he crafted a trap we couldn't escape? We plunged into the thick layers of darkness, adrenaline coursing through my veins like wildfire. The woman stumbled behind us, her breath ragged. I could hear Emily's heart pounding next to me, a frantic rhythm keeping time with our frantic escape. Where do we go? The woman demanded, urgency blazing in her voice. I glanced back at her, trying to gauge her sincerity. Just keep running. I urged, shooting forward, dragging Emily alongside me. Light flickered through the alley, hinting that we were closing in on a street. But my instincts screamed that freedom wasn't guaranteed yet. A crashing noise echoed behind us. It sounded as if someone had rammed into a dumpster, metal striking metal with a terrifying, splintering force. I turned my head, my gut twisting. Each second stretched into an eternity, and with every beat, the dread swelled. They're coming. The woman yelled. Who? I snapped, my voice breaking with fear. Jackass unleashed a gang of crazies. Before she could finish, a shrill shout sliced through the night. It wasn't just a voice, it was a call for violence, a pack of wolves hungry for prey. Fear gripped my chest like a vice. No more talking. I hissed, shoving Emily deeper into the shadows as I kept scanning our surroundings. We reached the edge of the alley, only to be met with the sight of several figures silhouetted against the lights of the street. "Run!" I screamed, but it was as if the world moved in slow motion. I could see their faces, painted with madness, eyes gleaming with deranged excitement. No longer the partygoers I had once walked through moments ago, they were transformed into beasts. Jack had made them his instruments of chaos. We turned on our heels, barreling back into the alley, my mind racing. What were we supposed to do now? I could feel the panic rising as the darkness closed in again, swallowing us whole. "Mom!" Emily's voice trembled. "Where are we going?" "Just hang on," I said, keeping my voice firm even as horror clawed at my insides. "Over here!" the woman shouted, grabbing my wrist and yanking me towards a narrow passage between two buildings. I hesitated, uncertainty bubbling up. She could be leading us into a trap. Emily protested, fear etched in her features, but before I could respond, the distant sounds of chaos crescendoed, and I felt a surge of desperation. I had to make a choice. She might know something we don't, I decided, gritting my teeth. "Fine." Emily groaned, her voice trembling with frustration. "But if this goes south then we'll find another way," I promised, even as shadows danced in my mind that we squeezed into the narrow passage, the walls pressing in like a vice. A scrap of hope flickered, this couldn't be the end. But as we moved forward, a footstep echoed outside the entrance, followed by a low murmur of malicious laughter. "Did they find us already?" Emily breathed, her small body shaking against mine. "Stay close," I whispered, panic creeping into my thoughts, as the shadows wavered like hunting beasts. Suddenly, the woman froze, her eyes wide. "What if we don't make it out?" Her voice was a threat of despair that tugged at my heart. "We will." I shot back, trying to choke down what I felt rising in my chest. But as the laughter grew louder, the familiar warmth of hope faded into a chill. Was this truly the end, or was there still a glimmer of chance left? Just then, the ground trembled, heavy footsteps were on us. Someone or something was blocking our exit. It was time to face whatever nightmare was waiting for us on the other side. Would we outsmart the darkness, or would it consume us whole? The passage felt tighter with every breath. With the woman to my side and Emily clinging to my hand, we pressed against the grimy walls, the murmur of laughter echoing like a sick joke around us. My heart raced with the rhythm of fear, quick and frantic, begging for escape. "Do you hear that?" Emily whispered, her eyes wide, reflecting the dim light filtering through the narrow opening. I nodded, straining to listen over the blood pounding in my ears. The voices grew louder, more erratic, like a pack of predators hunting for their next meal. My mind flashed to images of vicious grins and outstretched hands, eager for violence. Suddenly, a shadow loomed at the entrance of the narrow passage. A figure stepped into the faint light, a man, his face obscured by a jagged mask. My stomach dropped. He was one of them, a man turned savage by the chaos Jack had unleashed. The glint of a blade caught the light as he surveyed our hiding spot. come out, wherever you are," he taunted, the words twisted with a cruel delight. I barely stifled a gasp. Heat washed over me, the fight-or-flight instinct kicking in hard. "We have to move," I hissed, turning to the woman. "Can you lead us out?" But she was frozen in fear, her eyes locked on the masked figure as if he hypnotized her. "Now!" I barked, urgency flooding my words. I tugged on Emily, pulling her closer. Before we could react, the man lunged toward us, jagged laughter bubbling up from deep in his throat. "Gotcha!" he roared, reaching for our hiding place that I didn't think. I pushed Emily and the woman ahead of me, propelling them down the passage. Instincts kicked in, driving me to shield them. "Run! Keep running!" I shouted, shoving Emily with all my strength. I heard the woman scramble to follow. In that moment, I felt the chilling kiss of fear, the figure cursed behind us, crashing into the wall as he tried to follow. I propelled us deeper into the darkness, adrenaline guiding my every move. Each step felt like a brush with death, but I had to protect my girl. It was all I knew how to do. We burst out into an open space, the moonlight washing over our haggard forms. I finally caught a glimpse of the street where we emerged. My breath hitched in my throat. Cars littered the pavement, but the street was deserted. Where had everyone gone? Mom, what now? Emily's voice trembled, her fear palpable. No stopping now, I said, scanning our surroundings. We've got to keep moving. But a noise erupted behind us, shouting that gave chase to our flight. The masked man had returned, a figure at his back, and more shadows slithered into sight. They were coming for us, and every ounce of my energy screamed to run. Where are we? Why is no one helping? The woman moaned, glancing around, panic etched in her features. People don't help in moments like this, I gritted out. They either hide, or they become part of the chaos. Suddenly, a light flickered from a far corner of the street, a beacon in the oppressive darkness. A building loomed ahead, a bar, perhaps. It was a gamble, but we had to take action. Go! I yelled. Into that light. Now. Hesitations mixed with fear melted into urgency as we dashed toward it. Just then, an unearthly howl pierced the night, rising from the pack behind us. The sound chilled my bones. They were closing in fast. Would that building protect us? Or was it merely leading us into another trap? As we reached the doors, I threw them open, heart racing, praying for refuge. But inside? It felt wrong, too quiet, too still. Were we safe, or had we just walked into the jaws of a greater threat? The answer awaited us within, shrouded in mystery and dread. The silence inside the bar was suffocating, wrapping around us like a shroud. The dim light from flickering bulbs cast eerie shadows on the walls, twisting them into grotesque shapes that danced with our panic. Sensing the weight of dread, I glanced at Emily, her small face pale and wide-eyed. The woman beside her mirrored that fear, trembling as we stood on the threshold of an unknown fate. Where is everyone? Emily whispered, breaking the stifling quiet. Maybe they left, or I started, searching for an explanation that wouldn't send us spiraling into despair. A crash echoed from outside, bouncing off the bar's walls. I spun around, heart leaping into my throat. We need to find a way to barricade the door, I urged, moving instinctively toward the nearest table, a heavy wooden one that looked capable of fortifying our entrance. The woman and Emily joined me, but as I felt a surge of adrenaline, I also sensed the sinking dread rising from the pit of my stomach. They were coming. I knew it, a horde of madness fueled by chaos. I shoved the table with every ounce of my strength, while the woman pushed against it, her breathing quickening. Just then, a figure emerged from the shadows at the back of the bar, startling me to a halt. A man, thin as a rail, with disheveled hair and wild eyes, looked at us in disbelief like we'd intruded on his territory. "What are you doing here?" he asked, his voice hoarse, trembling under the weight of his own terror. "We're hiding," I said, urgency clawing at my throat. "Please, help us." The man's gaze flickered toward the door. "You don't want to be in here, it's not safe." Before I could respond, a pounding erupted at the door, forceful and unyielding. Each hit sent vibrations through my bones, and I exchanged frantic glances with Emily. "They know you're in there," the man shouted, panic lacing his words. "If they get in, help us block the door." I screamed, quickly shifting gears. "Please." As we tossed more furniture against the entrance, my mind raced. I couldn't let them in. Not while Emily was here. But what if this stranger was right? With the barricade finally in place, I turned back to the man, chest heaving. "Who are you? Just get away from the windows," he snapped before darting toward the bar. He disappeared behind it, and I heard him rummaging through something. My instincts told me to follow, to keep Emily close, but the room felt like a prison of uncertainty. I could hear the man muttering, fear woven into his hurried speech. Here! He shouted suddenly, reappearing with a flickering lantern and a gun grimy and worn, but it seemed functional. My heart sank. Isn't that going to attract attention? It's the only thing we have, he replied, desperation etched on his face. I could hear the laughter again outside, twisted and echoing in a way that clawed at my sanity. My hands clenched into fists as rage ignited within me. We had to fight. Suddenly, the world outside exploded into chaos. The door buckled violently, and splintered wood flew in all directions. The shadows were gaining ground. Get ready! I shouted. Stand together. We can do this. Just as I pulled Emily close, the door splintered wide open, and chaos surged in. From the darkness, wild laughter and shadows converged, their intent clear. I caught a glimpse of the masked figure, the blade glinting under the flickering lights. Were we truly done for? As the first figure broke through the doorway, I saw something flash behind its mask, and unexpected recognition seeping through the fear. What was happening? Who were they? With an iron grip on Emily, I steeled myself. The fight wasn't over. We had one chance to uncover the truth, or bury ourselves under the horrors that lurked in the night. Would we unravel this twisted fate or succumb to the darkness around us? The door burst open, splintered wood scattering like confetti, and insurged a wave of chaos. Figures screamed and laughed, their eyes wild and dangerous. I squinted against the flickering light, my heart hammering against my ribs. The masked face moved closer, the glint of the blade sharp against the shadows. I shoved Emily behind me, adrenaline coursing through my veins. Get back! I barked, my voice hoarse from fear and a desperate determination to protect her. The woman beside us stiffened, trembling, her wide-eyed panic apparent. The man, still holding the gun, stood frozen. Shoot! I yelled, adrenaline pushing me into action. But he hesitated, his gaze flitting between me and the advancing shapes. Are you out of your mind? He finally shouted back. I can't just fire into a crowd. With that, as if on cue, a shriek echoed from outside, and the laughter intensified a sinister symphony. I gritted my teeth and pulled the heavy barstool from behind the bar, hurling it towards the closest figure. It crashed against a shoulder, and the masked figure stumbled back in surprise. Go, move! I shouted, herding our ragtag group toward the back of the bar. My heart pounded in my ears, drowning out the chaos. Every instinct screamed at us to escape, but there was nowhere safe. Help me! The woman cried as she clutched at a bottle from the shelf, her face a mask of desperation. She flung it with trembling hands, and it shattered against another figure's mask, sending shards flying like jagged stars. Right before they lunged towards us, one of the intruders slipped inside the bar, weaving through the debris. Slashing wildly, it was only luck that kept the knife from finding flesh. Everything felt surreal. Time stretched, seconds feeling like an eternity, my breath coming in short gasps. The man with the gun finally came to life, aiming at the nearest figure. He fired, the loud bang cracking through the air. The masked figure crumpled to the ground, and the laughter faltered momentarily. I felt a surge of hope, but it quickly evaporated when another intruder charged forward. Back! Back! I roared, my voice tinged with an edge I didn't recognize. I grabbed Emily and pulled her down behind the bar counter. The cacophony outside reverberated through me, each scream and wrench of laughter sending a chill down my spine. Suddenly, the man with the gun shouted in despair. No, their faces, I know them. What? I shouted, fear inching into my throat. What do you mean? But it was too late. One of the figures was lunging into the bar, knife slashing through the dim light, narrowly missing me as I ducked. The intrusion was closer now, but with every second, I could feel something, an urgency building, a revelation screaming within me. That I glanced up at the man, desperately clutching his gun, eyes wide with recognition. Are those people from town? Panic bubbled to the surface as the realization hit. They weren't just outsiders. They were familiar faces twisted by this madness. Suddenly, a cold breeze swept through the entrance, snuffing out the flickering lantern and plunging us into darkness. "Who are they?" I yelled again, but before he could answer, a figure crawled over the bar, shadowy and unpredictable. The fight morphed into chaos as we swung at shadows, hearts racing, but in the depths of my mind, a question took root: were these monsters we faced once neighbors, friends, lovers? With a powerful swing, I knocked down another figure, sending it sprawling. Just as I turned, the man gasped, "You have to see this." As the darkness swallowed us, the laughter outside began to distance itself. The world seemed to quiet, giving way to something terrifyingly ominous as I processed his words. What did he want me to see? And then the laughter faded, leaving only a haunting silence. What came next would tear apart everything we thought we knew. The silence clung heavy to the air like fog, so thick you could almost taste the dread. I felt a cold sweat bead on my brow, matching the chill racing down my spine. We stood there, frozen, hearts thundering against the backdrop of stillness. I exchanged glances with Emily, her wide eyes screaming for reassurance, yet all I had was my own growing uncertainty. "Where did they go?" I whispered, almost afraid to voice the question. The man shook his head, confusion blending with fear. "They don't just vanish, they're regrouping. They never come alone," he managed, his voice trembling as the tension hung like a taut wire ready to snap. Just then, flickers returned in the corners of the bar, reminding us we were still encapsulated within a thin barrier, something fragile against the chaos waiting outside. My instincts screamed for action. "We have to barricade that door again. Create a wall, anything to block them out," I declared, pushing the panic down and steadied my trembling hands. "Listen," the man insisted, "they're not just looking to get in. They want to break spirits too. They'll try to confuse us, to make us doubt who we are." His words sank into me, chilling my blood. This was more than just a fight for survival, it was a battle for our identities. These were people, once people we knew. As I pushed a table against the entrance with all my strength, memories swarmed around me, friendly faces now twisted by the darkness Jack had unleashed. "We can't let them win. No matter how familiar they are, these are not the same people anymore," I urged, glancing back at Emily. "Stay close. We'll get through this." Just as I finished speaking, a loud thud rocked the bar, echoing through the emptiness like a drum signaling impending doom. The sound came again, accompanied by muffled voices, almost playful in nature. I didn't understand it, but something vile still lingered in the air. Then, realization hit me: there were stories floating around town of people acting strangely, whispers of a darkness consuming souls. Had Jack been pulling strings all along? Deep down, I felt anger raging to the surface. I was not just fearful. I was furious. "Why are they doing this?" I shouted, turning to the man. "What can they possibly gain from this?" His eyes darted toward the door, and for a fleeting moment, I glimpsed a flicker of regret. Some nights, when the lights go out, they believe they can reclaim their lives through chaos. And all it takes is a moment, an act of madness like the one Jack orchestrated. Panic surged. Were we just pawns in this twisted game? We tightened around the table, those precious seconds stretching as we prepped for the inevitable clash. I could practically feel the weight of history pressing down upon us, as if everyone we knew had become mere shadows trapped in the night, waiting to consume us. "They're pushing against the door," the woman shouted, her eyes wide with terror. "We have to be am." The door exploded inward, crashing against the barricade, sending splintered wood raining down like shrapnel. I ducked as figures lunged into the dim light. The laughter returned, sharper, almost mocking. "Get down!" I yelled, shoving Emily to the floor, knocking the woman out of harm's way. The man frantically fired at the encroaching shadows, his shots echoing through the bar, but the laughter only grew louder. "Mom!" Emily cried, clinging to my leg, her breath rapid and shallow. I fought the impulse to look into the chaos. I needed to protect her from the terrifying reality creeping ever closer. All at once, I surged upward. Get out! I shouted at the man. We have to fight our way out. I pulled Emily up and charged forward, taking the lead into the madness, a flicker of hope illuminating the darkness that we navigated, the swirl of chaos, weaving through figures now racing toward us. I shoved chairs and tables in their path, anything that could buy us time. With each stride, I felt the shadows closing in, but I had to keep moving. I had to keep my daughter safe. Finally, I saw an opening, the door to a side exit, and glowed, beckoning with the promise of freedom. This way! I commanded, shoving my way through the onslaught of shadow. Out we burst, breathless, into the night air. It tasted sweet, crisp against my tongue. But no sooner had we stepped beyond the threshold when a scream sliced through the darkness. They're coming! The woman shouted, her eyes wide with pure terror, and behind her, the cold laughter echoed, hotter than before. Run! I commanded, reaching for Emily, and we took off into the disorienting night. My heart hammered, but adrenaline surged through my veins, driving us forward. As I looked back, I caught glimpses of their faces transformed by madness, a collage of our community turned nightmare. They weren't those we recognized. Jack had twisted them into something unrecognizable. We surged down the street, the chaos chasing us, but I felt an ember igniting, a flicker of courage building within me so strong that I couldn't let go. We'll find the others, I called out, determination blending with urgency. We'll break this spell, we need to show them who they really are. Why isn't anyone helping? Emily yelled, her voice filled with anger and hurt. Why are they like this? I gritted my teeth. They have to remember. We need to remind them of the love, the bond that once existed. They're trapped in their own nightmares, but we'll pull them out. As we reached a large park, illuminated only by the silver shimmer of the moonlight, I scanned the area desperately. They've got to be somewhere. Please, someone. I panted. There. In the distance, I saw a flicker of movement, familiar bodies struggling against the pull of the chaos that enveloped them. Over there. I pointed, heart racing with newfound hope. Mom, no. Emily cried, sensing danger, but there wasn't time for doubt. For the first time, I embraced the raw power of love and loyalty coursing through me. As if by instinct, we dashed forward, weaving through trees, dodging shadows now haunting the park. I felt energy surge through me as I called out to them, voices echoing. I saw them turn, faces swimming in uncertainty, struggling against whatever held them. Remember who you are. I shouted, desperation spilling into my voice. Remember us. We've been through so much together, you know us. The chaos intensified, laughter turning sharper, and suddenly, my heart sank when I saw Jack standing at the center of the madness. Stop! He yelled, grinning devilishly, but smoke twisted around him, choking the air. The darkness clung to him like a cloak, everyone clamoring for his approval. Not like this. I shouted, stepping forward. You can fight. We're not your enemies. But my plea was met with cackling laughter, echoing in the shadows. Yet I wasn't backing down. I began to fight with memories, flooding each face with love, moments spent as neighbors, friends, family. Slowly, I saw flickers of recognition. Remember our picnic by the river? I urged, desperation coloring every word. Remember the times we laughed together? Aunt Lizzie. Someone yelped, and I saw her eyes shine through the haze. Yes. That's it. I called, my voice rising. You. Fight back. Remember us. One by one, faces began unmasking in a cacophony of recognition. I could see the shadows waning, the laughter now tinged with uncertainty, confusion mixing with glimmers of light. Fight, people. This is who you are. You're not lost. I shouted, conviction bleeding through my heart. Then, laughter fell silent with a crash, and Jack's presence faltered, his confidence wavering as he felt our collective warmth. No, no, he sputtered, shaking in disbelief. Before I could react, a wild wave of energy surged through the crowd, drowning out the darkness. Together, we stood firm, love solidifying into a fortress protecting us against the remnants of Jack's twisted nightmare that we could only hope this fight would force him into retreat, but darkness had a way of coming back. Yet as I clutched my daughter, the faces around me glowing with newfound clarity, I felt embers of resolve flicker into life. What we had built wasn't just survival, it was a beacon of possibility, one that could push the darkness away once and for all. I vowed to remind them every day who we truly were, and more than ever, I could feel the bright embers of our community flickering back to life. Hand in hand, we took a step forward, forging our way back together into the world, leaving chaos behind us. This moment was everything, and as for Jack, he would learn our light was far more powerful than his darkness. Now trapped just outside the edges of our lives, today, we reclaimed who we were, together. Now that you've experienced this thrilling conclusion, you need to subscribe immediately if you want to stay updated on all the exclusive stories rolling out next. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help more fans discover this journey. Don't leave us hanging, flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this explosive ending. And please, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how this concludes. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second.